They weren't business owners per se. They were self-employed. So we couldn't take 2 weeks off and go to Disney World. I think the two biggest things that we're seeing right now that are popping up, aside from like just architecture in general in these spaces, and just these pools are getting massive.
When he told me he's the guy that did the Lamborghini Pool, I was like, oh, yeah, I've definitely seen his work then.
It's a head turner. It's hard to miss.
Welcome to Luxury Outdoor Living Podcast with Mike
and Trey Farley
of Farley Pool Designs. For over 40 years, we've helped homeowners turn their backyards into personal retreats. And that's why after decades of designing and teaching in this industry, we're here to share our knowledge, helping you navigate the process with confidence.
Every week we break down design, trends, and insider tips that turn your vision into reality. We'd love to have you along for the ride.
Let's build your paradise together. So good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Farley with Luxury Outdoor Living Podcast. We're hosted by Farley Pool Designs, and we have an awesome guest from Florida with us tonight. So we didn't get a lot of information to dive into your bio, but Jonny with Smart Aquatics is with us. Why don't you take us away and let us know a little bit about you and Smart Aquatics?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And we like to keep things mysterious over here. So we like to keep everybody on their feet guessing, so we can get as much information over. No, I'm kidding. That was an accident. But so, a little bit about me. Well, I'll give you the short version. I'm a second-generation pool professional. So I grew up cleaning swimming pools, family business. My parents started a pool company, some 40 years ago now. They're both retired. And so we just kind of grew up in the industry, riding around in my dad's work truck, jumping in pools, cleaning tile, just small stuff when you're a kid. But I did that for like 25 years, or roughly 20 some years. And then we got into, I've always passionate about design. So I went to school for architecture and design and ended up working for a firm where they did aquatic consulting, design, swimming pool design, similar to what you guys do over there in Texas. And I was there for roughly 5 years, I think. And then, kind of just reached my ceiling. And then from there, it was just off to the races, do my own thing.
Okay. Amazing. So I'm just curious, your training because you guys do some very intense work. Okay. And so the learning curve to do that for a professional, did they teach you all that in-house with the firm, or did you go through educational programs to learn that, or how did you learn that?
That's actually a really great question. I think that's something that we've probably all seen as professionals in the industry. It's almost like there's two different types of people that you come across in this industry. It's either someone that comes from the industry, right, and has the hands-on experience with a background in it, and then they have to learn some of these AutoCAD softwares or Pool Studio or SketchUp or whatever it is to get into the design realm of it, or someone who comes from maybe a design background, who studied design or comes from a different industry, landscape architecture or an architect or whatever it may be, and they have to learn everything about swimming pools and water features, right? So it's very difficult. As we all know, there's no formal, and I'm doing air quotes, formal education in this industry other than, the educational entities that exist, Water Shapes and Genesis and those kind of industry outlets. So the way that I was, obviously, I'm from the industry. So I grew up, cleaning pools. I started small. From there, it got into repairs, renovations, and kind of just worked my way up. I mean, a literal lifetime of hands-on experience. But just by way of, my natural ability, and I was always artistic growing up. I like to draw, and I probably did more of that than paying attention in high school. That led me into just studying architecture in school. I also found a course for like aquatic engineering at one point. So I learned by doing, hands-on experience. And then obviously the older you get, bigger projects you take on. I was cutting pipe and cutting steel. And so I've done pretty much everything at this point, except for like shoot concrete. But I really learned by doing. And then I think, my formal education through college, studying architecture, I learned how to use AutoCAD softwares. Revit was kind of a new thing when I was in college, using SketchUp and some of these 3D programs. And so the combination of those two things really allowed me to kind of excel when I did come to start to work for some of these design firms in the industry, because I had a lifetime of experience as my background, but I also had the softwares and the ability to do from the design side of things. So I think I just got lucky in that sense, if I'm being honest. But for me, it was really the combination of those two things that allowed me to really kind of come out of my shell and start, doing things on my own.
Awesome. That is awesome. So what made you motivated to launch Smart Aquatics in the first place?
You know what? I had, this was all by accident. It's very interesting. I didn't set out to, start my own business. It's interesting because I come from a family business. And I think that I'm not really 100% sure, but our parents just instilled kind of work ethic in us at a very young age. I mean, since I can remember, work was just part of what we did as a family, and my parents were always self-employed. And so we didn't really take family vacations either. They weren't business owners per se. They were self-employed. So we couldn't take 2 weeks off and go to Disney World, because if they weren't working, the business wasn't running. And so it was a family affair. It was always work related. And I think because, I like a challenge. I'm always somebody that has to be challenged. I take pride in my work. And my dad always said growing up, it's like, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. And so, when I came into, I guess what I would say is that anytime I found myself working for somebody else, it's like I'm a quick study. I want to be the best at it. And so I think naturally I just kind of gravitate towards the next thing, the next challenge. And at some point, if you're in an environment that either it's just not set up for more, you kind of reach a ceiling naturally. And you look around and you're like, well, I mean, what else? What's next, right? And if there isn't anything next that you see as a challenge, I mean, the natural thing for you to do is like, well, maybe I need to, start considering something, for myself. And so that's ultimately what happened to me. But you learn a lot because of that. Now I'm a business owner. We have like 6 to 8 people. And it's like I realized, oh wow, I need to do that for my people now, because I need to create an environment that allows them to grow to as much, whatever their goals are. So that, we keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, this was all, this was not part of the plan by any means. I was definitely happy where I was. And so it just kind of naturally, I think organically happened.
I'm wondering, because this show is, the directed audience is the homeowner going through the process. Could you share us kind of how the customer journey is with Smart Aquatics? Maybe, because you've been in the industry so long, there's probably things that there's like do's and don'ts that you kind of develop throughout the time. And what separates that journey versus, the run of the mill?
Yeah, I think, that's interesting. This is a very interesting industry that we're in. It's very unique, very specialized, obviously, as you guys know.
Yeah.
And growing up in the industry, most of our business, like my parents' business, literally today still is referral based. So 4 years of just referral based. And most of the stuff that we came upon was we were fixing somebody else's mistake. That's how I really learned to do what we do. Obviously now we do design engineering and kind of construction. It's a little bit less of that, which is a good thing. But from the homeowner's perspective, I mean, there's so many different approaches and different companies that offer different services. I guess it really depends on what they're after. I mean, we offer a couple of different services. We have our design team, we have our engineering team, and then, we do have a construction division now, which is new for this year. So I think it really depends on who the client is and what they're after.
What's your ideal client?
We serve a lot of professionals. Okay. So our engineering service is B2B mostly. Okay. So we get hired by architects and landscape architects, developers, contractors who are building these monstrosities of houses down here in Miami Beach. I mean, some of these people just have too much money, and a lot of them are celebrities and billionaires we have to sign NDAs on, right?
Yeah.
We've been involved on some of the largest residential projects in North America from a cost perspective. The professional side of things, those are our ideal clients who have too much money and want to design something absolutely insane or just crazy expensive. And we work alongside the architect to develop these drawings, because the architects, they have a vision, but they don't know how, for the aquatic, the specialization that is aquatics, they don't know how to translate that into a workable plan set. And then obviously the hydraulics and the mechanical and all electrical and all that stuff. It's just, if they knew how to do that, we wouldn't have a job, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So do they just give you like a placeholder for the pool and what the area you're going to be working with?
Yeah, and a lot of stuff now we're seeing is like these water features are integrated throughout the house. So some of these houses are 3 and 4 stories, right? They've got an understory, they got a first floor, second floor, and a rooftop, and so a lot of these water features are, these water walls are 30-foot high. They run vertical through the entire house, and so a lot of this stuff is integrated. So they'll provide us with like preliminary layouts and sections of what their idea is, what they think it'll look like. And some of these architects are very, very talented. So they even, they know the knife edges and the vanishing edges. They know enough to put a section together. And obviously ones that we worked with in the past, they know enough to be dangerous, but then they really need us to really take it to the finish line and turn it into a set of construction drawings with the very tedious stuff like the waterproofing and hydraulics and how much flow and the noise and the color and the water and all that kind of stuff. But so from that perspective, our ideal clients are really, I guess they're working on behalf of homeowners. But that's really our engineering service. So those are the type of clients that we serve. But then from, in our design service, we do serve the homeowner and the end user, but we'll also design, like we just designed a resort in the Bahamas.
Oh, wow.
So it varies. It really varies for us, but it's been difficult as a business to, usually you want to figure out the one thing that you can be the best at in the world, and then go down that rabbit hole. For us, it's turning into like the one thing that we're good at, or the thing that we can be best at is the holistic approach of like, we're a true design firm, true engineering firm, and now even getting into like the kind of construction stuff. So,
are you doing the construction worldwide? Because I know you do a lot of work down in the Caribbean. I should say maybe not worldwide, but down in that part of the country. Or is it just local there in Miami, or what are you trying to do with that?
Well, if the prices were right, we have the ability to go pretty much anywhere. I think it has to make, like any project, right? It has to make sense for us. We have the ability to work anywhere. It just depends. For now, it's pretty much the Caribbean, Miami, and then the States. But who knows what the future holds? I think for now we want to squeeze as much as we can out of this. But we're in one of the best markets, obviously, down here in South Florida. So,
great weather.
It's one. Sorry, what is it?
Great weather out there.
Oh yeah,
Trey was just there. So
yeah, I was in Saint goodness, what was it called? I was in the Caribbean, and I had to stop in Miami for a day as well.
Oh,
it was
nice.
the first time I was there. It was beautiful. So,
well, first time in Miami or first time in
both?
Wherever you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. All right. Oh yeah, dude. Anytime, next time you gotta give me a call, man. Go to lunch or something.
Oh yeah.
The islands are beautiful down there too. Yeah, we just had a project completed in St. John, right next to St. Thomas. So
that's cool. It was Saint Martin is where I went.
St. Martin. Oh wow, nice. All right.
Yeah.
I think is that the BVI's, the British Virgin Islands?
It was I think it was French and it was 2 different countries.
Okay.
It was interesting. Yeah. But it was the one where the planes fly right over the beach. But nevertheless, y'all have a lot of materials that we don't use as often because of the climates are different. Like glass tile, y'all do a lot of amazing glass tile work down in Miami.
Is a glass tile finish something that's commonly done on your projects, or is it a specialty situation? And is there certain things you should think about when you're using glass tile?
Yeah, it varies. So glass tile and stone are started, well, especially stone, but glass tile and stone are becoming a lot more prominent down here. And I think just because of the type of clientele that we have. So, and definitely, we always recommend a specialist. I mean, we know enough to be dangerous on some of these things, but that's what most people, most people see on our social media, or they come to us and we have a lot of the answers whether it's glass tile or acrylic panels or whatever it is. But really, what makes us dangerous and successful is our network that we have. So we have an acrylic, glass tile and stone
Ray.
specialist. Right, yeah. Ray Corral is definitely our go-to for the tile and the stone. I mean,
Ray
not
was,
just
Ray was on an
Right?
episode last year with us. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, so we'll look it up and find
yeah. He lives
reference.
we're like neighbors. He lives like 10 minutes from me. But yeah, anytime we have a client asking questions about tile, I always get Ray involved, because there's more to it than most people realize, and not even just the material itself, the installation. I mean, we have people. What people don't realize, you mentioned, based on the geography, right? You may not have the type of humidity that we do here, right? Especially over in Las Vegas or in places like Arizona. People they go on vacation. We had a client do this. They go on vacation to Bali or somewhere, and they see this beautiful, the excuse me, what's the lava stone? The green, what is that called?
Oh,
The light green.
yeah,
I should know.
I should know it too. Golly.
Sukabumi stone.
Sukabumi, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Stones like that are porous, that people see that, when they're on vacation, they're, oh my God, this is beautiful, I want to put it in my pool. So then they find a place and they order it, and they have it shipped in, and it fits here. And then, because of the humidity, it starts to, these stones are porous. And so it starts to retain some of the moisture inside the stone. And then you go try to install that. It just doesn't, per the manufacturer's specifications, and it just doesn't work. So we see a lot of that with the tile and stone. We just had a job actually in Miami Beach where they did not go with Ray because he was a little bit more expensive. And we saw in the images when they were installing it, the material that they had set out in the pool on the concrete that they were using. And it was a little material that was used for exterior applications, but it even says it on the bag that it's not used for underwater application.
Oh no.
And not just that, but it had ended up being an installer that does like kitchen tile work, interior or exterior tile. And they got the walls like perfectly straight, but the floor was like super wavy. And when you're not used to working on sloped floors, because you're not used to working in swimming pools, it came out really, really, wavy, to the point where the client was like, hey, is it supposed to be like this? And as professionals, we see that kind of stuff and we know immediately. But if it's bad enough to where the client, like a lay person, can look at it and say, hey, there's something wrong with this, that's how you know it's really wrong. So we're hoping, other than that, it came out, it's a beautiful installation. We're hoping that it lasts a while. But like knowing those type of things and seeing those type of things, it really, it's upsetting. But yeah, there's definitely those type of things are specializations. And even when we try to educate the client on these things up front, sometimes they see the price tag and they just don't understand the value until it's, later down the road. And then they start having issues with, well, this is exactly why we hire a specialist.
Right.
So
You had some features that I hadn't heard of before. I know we've talked about cold plunge and a lot of the health and wellness stuff, like saunas, steam rooms. There's a lot of stuff, but what was it again? It was like there was an ice fountain and a sand room, and
nowadays there's everything.
yeah.
So are these wellness applications that you've done on the commercial level? Because I know you've done some stuff up in New York City and some other places following your work over a period of time, or is this stuff that's done in residential homes as well?
So we're seeing it's what's very interesting, because it started almost with the cold plunge, or at least recently, right? Obviously, hot spas 10 years ago were the thing. Everyone wanted a spa in their pool. But it's both. We're doing residential and commercial applications. We started kind of small. Some of these luxury gyms, like Anatomy Gym or Temple Gym up in New York.
Yeah.
So we're helping them with they're calling them sanctuary areas, and where they have hot spas, cold plunges, saunas, steam rooms. So right now we're involved with the Anatomy Gym. We're doing their new Aventura location now, but yes, we have two other bathhouses, one down here in Woodwood and one in Fort Lauderdale, and essentially they're very similar, but one's leaning more towards kind of the recovery medicine. One is a straight up bathhouse where it's like we've got a salt pool, when I say salt pool, I don't mean your typical salt chlorinated pool that's 3,200 parts per million. I'm talking about
Like a Dead Sea.
like the Dead Sea, but magnesium salt.
Yeah.
So it's like 450,000 parts per million of magnesium salt. And so when you get into it, you float. So float therapy. So on the commercial level, we're having these bathhouses pop up, and we're assisting them with the entire build out of these areas. But we're also simultaneously seeing now, the individuals with enough means, they're building entire gyms in their houses now, and in their gyms they want to put a sauna, steam room, the whole nine. So we're seeing both of those things down here. I don't know if it's as prominent in other areas yet, but definitely in South Florida, they're popping up left and right.
So what exactly is the ice fountain? Because I've never heard of that before.
Well, there's a couple of different, like for instance, in the one we're doing here in Wynwood, it has a rain. We might have seen that on social media, and sometimes it's where somebody's like the client saw that on social media and I want to do that. Where they have the rain room, where you go into the room, it's like an LED screen, but the whole, you got rain coming down. They've got the snow rooms where it's basically cold therapy. Cold plunging is just a version of cold therapy. Like we've known about like cryo and stuff like that for a long time. Right. And now they have the wetless one. There's different variations of the sauna. There's infrared saunas.
Right.
So a lot of those rooms, they just have different, if you throw a high level of salt into one of those rooms, you can call it a vitality room or something, so there's a couple different types of applications that you can do by just whether it's introducing steam, heat, and even heat at different temperatures. Those are a lot of the different variations of rooms that we're putting into these wellness facilities, essentially. So,
and heated loungers, are those something that goes into the rooms themselves?
Yeah, heated lounges are popular. Those are more product based, where you actually purchase there's basically a lounge chair that just gets hot, essentially, for lack of a better description.
No, that makes sense. Well, who's that by? That's not Ledge Lounger, right? That's someone else.
No, there's a couple of manufacturers that make the heated loungers. They can be made out of stainless steel or like prefabbed out of concrete.
Okay.
So it just depends. There's a couple of different manufacturers that know those.
I could definitely see someone that's like residential trying to build a pool in their backyard, maybe doing one of those.
I took a class at the international show, and there was a lady there from Italy that was teaching, and she was mentioning how they use the stainless steel ones over in Italy.
Right.
From a health
Yeah, in Europe, this stainless steel is a lot more prominent in Europe, I would say. And just in general, not just for those chairs, but I believe that's probably why. They use a lot more stainless steel over in Europe than we do here for things, which is interesting.
Yeah, they got the stainless steel looking slide that we've had on.
Well, and by the way, that's where a lot of this comes from. Most of the things, at least in our industry, I'm not sure about other industries, but it trickles down. It starts in Europe. This wellness movement that we have had here now in the last 20 years, it's kind of started with the like everybody getting healthy from a physical perspective. now it's moving into the actual wellness. But that, that's been a big thing in Europe for a long time. And it seems like it trickles down to New York and then it comes and hits Miami, it's kind of a hot spot. So, but that's usually where we see things by the time it trickles down to us here in Miami. It's already something that's been around in Europe for a very long time.
Is there any like new, I don't want to say trends, but new I guess technology or ideas that you've implemented in your projects recently that maybe get you excited and want to talk about, or anything?
Well, I think the two biggest things that we're seeing right now that are popping up, aside from like just architecture in general in these spaces, and just these pools are getting massive and they're being integrated everywhere. But you guys touched on it. Is the wellness, how prominent and that they're building these entire facilities. But then two, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, the acrylic panels are starting to really, really take off. We're doing two projects right now that are they're not the largest projects in the world, but they are some of the most unique projects. And I think one of them, actually both of them technically, from a residential perspective, I don't believe it's been done before. So we're working on, and we're still in the engineering phase, but we're building an all-acrylic swimming pool. So have you guys seen the Embassy Gardens? Right.
Yeah.
So that's the world's first acrylic swimming pool that spans between two mid-rises.
Right.
So, and this is typically how progress goes, right? Once we have proof of concept, now people can see that, oh wow, it's working. We have homeowners that are saying, I want that in my home. So we have two projects, one's here in Miami Beach, one's here in Coral Gables, where the client literally said, I want that in my house. One's a new construction home, one is an existing home. The existing home one is actually going to be a little bit more unique, in my opinion, than the other one. But essentially, the existing house has two balconies. It's kind of wrapped. There's a certain area that it wraps around like a U, and in between the two balconies there, we're building on a structure that goes up vertical to the second floor on the balconies, and the entire pool between that area, it's call it a 15 by 30 as far as the size is concerned, is all acrylic. And so the floor acrylic is 14 inches. The walls are like 8 inches. The acrylic by itself is $1.8 million just for the acrylic to be delivered to the site. So we're super excited about that.
So are you working with a manufacturer out of Europe? Because you have to have a really big kiln to actually fire something like that.
Oh yeah, we even want to go to the manufacturing facility to kind of just document this whole thing because it is so unique. We want to show it from start to finish. But so that one, I believe, I'm not sure. I had to talk to Jason, as a matter of fact, because I'm not sure where it's coming from. But the other one that's in Miami Beach, which basically it's a box that they're just going to set in on some supports. It's still really cool, but that one's a Reynolds polymer product. So it's coming from, I believe they're in Colorado or something.
Colorado Springs.
Yeah. I think the other one I believe is a manufacturer from Australia, but they have a local division here, actually in Houston, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
you may be,
we use.
You may be familiar with them. I'm not. Now I want to say I'm not 100% yet if that's where it's coming from. It hasn't been made. That info hasn't been made public to me yet. But for right now, I have to go back and look at the shop drawings. But I believe that's where it's coming from. It's an Australian company that has a local facility.
So with this, with the design, is it going to be like pretty much an acrylic bridge where it separates and it just connects from the two sides of the house, or is it going to be kind of connected from all three sides of the U?
No. So it's just from left to right. So
okay.
Yeah. So if anything, it's just kind of we're closing off the U essentially and making it like but you can walk under the pool. It's built up on the second floor, so it's just the floor and the walls all acrylic, just one span. You can walk under it. It's really cool, man. It is really cool.
Yeah, so that's badass. I can't wait to see that on Instagram.
And it's interesting. We have so many projects. I mean, some of our largest projects right now are under construction. And I mean, again, like I said, these are some of the largest residential projects in North America. And I'm not kidding when I say, I mean, these things are just monstrous. They're at the forefront of design and architecture and engineering. And the architects that are responsible for designing these homes are world renowned. So just to be involved with these type of clients is we're honored, obviously, but it and cool and as large and massive and complicated as those projects are, and they are, you have to have a whole team to be able to really do those type of projects. These smaller ones, this acrylic one's 15 by 30, but we're like more excited about that guy because it's pushing the boundaries. It's never been done before, like in residential, at least as far as we know. And we have to come up with like, for the other one in Miami Beach, we have to come up with how we're going to get the fittings. It's an all acrylic. There is no concrete. So we have to come up with like custom stainless steel bulkheads just to get piping into like some of the fittings. And so there's a lot of R&D that's going on there. So it's definitely, those are almost more challenging than some of these massive ones because we didn't really know if it's going to work, right? We have to do some R&D and say, okay, we think this is going to work, and then try that out. So it's more of a challenge sometimes. It's not necessarily the size of these things. Sometimes these smaller ones are harder to deal with than the big ones.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just what boundaries are you pushing? How are you going to solve these problems?
Right.
How did you put a team together that can handle all of the scope of this work?
Many years of pulling my hair out. That's a great question, Mike. I talked a lot about how I'm a second generation pool professional. And I have all the, I've pretty much done everything in the industry as far as like, what can be done up to this point. Or I've at least seen everything. But I had to learn how to run a business, and not just run a business. I had to learn, and I'm still learning. I had to learn how to lead people and to lead a team. And that is not nearly as easy as people make it look.
No, it's a whole lot easier just to do your stuff yourself. And
you know what? Yeah, you're absolutely right. When it was just me, by the way, nobody kicked more ass on these projects when I was the one doing the work. Now I don't do any CAD drafting anymore. I don't do any of that. I run the business. I lead my people and I train and stuff like that. But so it was a huge learning curve to find the right people, train the right people, because I didn't know how to hire. I was pulling my hair out, especially, by the way, when mistakes are made on these type of projects. I mean, it's a big deal, So finding the right people, training the right people, having the patience and it's like having kids, it's like you get to train people and let them fail, because there was a point where I would, because we're still on deadlines, right? We still have to get these projects done for the clients. So like you're trying to train somebody up and I would like push them out of the way. And I would just do it, right? Because I could do it better, faster. And so I did a little bit of that very early on because I didn't realize what I was doing to myself and the business was a detriment. You have to let your people fail on some level, or you'll never get outside of you being the one that does everything. So it was just, man, I've just been reading a lot of books. I'm, trying to learn as much as I can. But that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, I'm not doing anything special over here. I just know that what we're trying to do, and I know that I can't get there, by myself. And without the team, none of this would really be possible. But once you do find the right people, once I was able to find, one or two good people to like kick it off, that is really when it allowed us to like kick it into high gear and take on some of these projects and successfully complete, some of these projects. Because it's a high stress industry that we're working in. Deadlines, everything's got to be accurate. You're coordinating with 20 different people. There's a mistake here, mistakes. And by the way, mistakes happen. So instead, so you have to learn how to like not finger point and place blame and stuff. And even when that's what everybody wants to do, and just to find a solution. So just a lot of work.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to steal one of the questions that Trey's going to ask later. But so in that process, did you go to business training conferences, or did you read books, or did you watch stuff on YouTube? How did you go about learning how to do that?
Well, I definitely did like a 180 on social media and stuff. I was just forced to start consuming. I almost consume content now, not as a consumer, one, because we're creating content, but two, I'm consuming the content that I do consume is a lot of business related stuff. I'm following a lot of guys, who just built these massive companies and leadership and stuff like that. So books, I'm reading one book per month now. That's my goal for this year. And the books have been a tremendous help, really. That's been the big, and by the way, I hate reading. I was not a good student. I was probably a C student at best. I hate reading, but I love to learn, and the books have been a huge help, and not just, business stuff, but also leadership. And then I've gone to a couple of these seminars. I plan on going to a couple more this year on, basically, how to scale the business and leadership. They kind of go hand in hand. The business stuff kind of goes hand in hand with the leadership, because you can't, part of growing your business is growing your people, and you can't do one without the other. And all of it is self-development. So, yeah,
It's a
I don't know
process.
if that it is certainly a process.
How I saw you said you were ripping your hair, you're practically ripping your hair out in the beginning when you were hiring people, and I saw a post where you said that when you left the job you had and you started your own business, I mean, you had to borrow money from your mother to support your mortgage, and I love that video was really good, very well made. But how long did it take for you to feel, I guess, established and have a well-oiled machine?
Oh man, I still don't feel that way. I think it's a blessing and a curse. I really do. And you know what? Someone told me
It's
this.
honest. Yeah.
No, yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, Mike, and we'll have a couple more conversations after this. But like, I pick, guys like you have been around doing this for a long time, man. Like, I admire that, and I try to pick your brain as much as I can. I know we're doing the podcast here about me now, but because I think that's really the biggest thing, is just learning from other people. There's always something to learn. But to answer the question, I forget who told me that. I was like, man, I got to the point where we built this team and had basically operations. We have like 8 people full time, just churning and burning on projects. And I was like, oh man, I thought I could like put my feet up now. I was like, oh, it's, they're running the day to day. It's great. But then I didn't realize, oh wow, if we want to hit our goals and kind of keep growing and stuff, we have to build the whole sales team now, a whole other side of the business. I was like, man. So I forget who it was. And I just asked, I was like, hey, does it ever like stop? Do you ever feel like, and they're just like, no, that's what. And they said it so cavalier, like so casual, just like, no. Like, why? But why would you want it to, like, what? That's what, I guess maybe it's your purpose. Maybe that's what it's like.
You
It
grew.
definitely gets easier, but I definitely don't feel like we're where we need to be yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered the question, but
It does.
You got to keep growing or you die.
yeah, I don't feel that way yet, and I'm not sure what would make me feel that way. I feel like we're getting closer. I guess I feel like at some point you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
It's all about the chase.
Yeah, maybe it is. What they say, it's the journey, not the destination, right?
Exactly.
So
A lot of people probably know your work and don't even know who you are. Like, there's obviously a lot of people that know your company, but there's probably a lot of people that have seen the Lamborghini Pool. And can you just walk us through that process and what that job is? And because I think that's probably one of the popular, like, for me, that when he told me he's the guy that did the Lamborghini Pool, I was like, oh yeah, I've definitely seen his work then.
well, no. So that is obviously it's a head turner. It's hard to miss.
Yeah.
But now we have one that's going to put that thing to shame. These acrylic pools now that are coming up, which again, we're just unfortunate. But like many of our projects, that was a collaboration between Fox Terra Design, who I'm sure you guys have heard of.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're probably the biggest thing in our industry from a design perspective. So that was a Fox Terra. They did the initial design concept there for the client, who was Alex Moeller, and he's a big car guy, which is obviously why he wanted to put a car in his pool. He's got another area in his he's got a movie theater inside, and like one of the walls is all like glass,
Right.
so that you can park whatever car he feels like that day. But like, so you can park. He parks a Ferrari there or whatever it is, so you can see from the movie theater. But so Foxterra did the original design concept there. We were brought on to develop that design into a set of construction drawings, and then Custom Pool Systems. Well, now CPS Outdoors, a local construction company that we have a good relationship with, they were the ones who executed and actually built the project. So that's not uncommon. It's how a lot of these projects go sometimes. There's design firms, there's engineering firms, and then there's construction firms, and each firm has its specialty. There's also design build firms and everything. But so that was a very interesting project because obviously we've never seen that before. One of the most challenging things on that was the grass edge. We actually had to modify the design a little bit. So sometimes, whether it's a designer or an architect, they design this amazing thing, they give it to us, and they say, hey, we need you guys to make this thing work. And we had to obviously modify it. It was a little bit into the setback, right? Because they're out in California, so we can't expect them to know some of the local codes, but that's what we get hired to do. So we had to modify the design based on local ordinances and codes and stuff like that. But also, when you get into the constructability and the engineering of these things, we're driving a Lamborghini on top of a knife edge, right? And as you guys know, those knife edge conditions, and it was a grass edge too. We're using stainless steel, to hold, or you need something to overhang that gutter, right? So obviously, stainless steel's probably what was used first. Now, we've used a number of different materials to achieve that feature, but in this case, we did use stainless steel. But we were worried, like, how do we make sure? Because as designers, we have to also think in terms of like, it's designed for this Lamborghini, but guess what? What if he sells the house next year and the next guy wants to drive his freaking Tonka truck on that thing, right? So we want to make sure that they're not gonna have any issues with whatever they're driving over the steel, because it's a cantilevered condition. So stuff like that can be challenging. Some of these details that look very simplistic on the surface. I tell people it's like the iPhone. Underneath, it's very complicated. Also, that's why I think as homeowners, when they're seeing some of these things on social media or wherever they're seeing it on Pinterest, maybe, and they say, hey, I want that detail, and then they get the price for that detail, they don't realize there's a reason for that. I mean, you're building a boat, man. These things have to function properly, and there's safety hazards sometimes, and so there's a lot more that goes into it than just a pretty picture. So that's how that project came about.
So I liked the concept of the spa there at the end of it. So I enjoyed the video where you walked into the spa.
It's funny because like as professionals, we can spot those things like a mile away, but like we had the model out there who were doing professional photography, and she didn't know any better, and she was walking, and like she bumped up against the spa, a little bit elevated. So she bumped her up against it as she was walking, and she almost fell into the spa. We have that like blooper on the screen, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a cool pool. So I also saw at one point you have a tiny Lamborghini too. Did you give that away, or you still have that one?
I gave it to my niece.
Oh, you are the best uncle. You say you're the best uncle in the world. So
everyone thinks I'm joking. Oh, number one, and not just because I'm the only uncle. Okay. So yeah, we thought that was funny, and actually, you know what? We that was just an idea that we got because we thought it would be funny. But we did a little skit for Brett David. So Brett David's a local down here, and he owns Lamborghini Miami. And he's a young guy like me, and so we thought that would be funny to call him out and say, hey, where do you park your Lamborghini? And we actually did that. The video didn't like do all that great, But he responded and he messaged me and he was like, "Oh, dude, that was awesome. Like, thanks for doing it." So that was kind of cool.
So tell me the story about how you ended up underwater in a photograph. Was that, did Jimmy Smith dare you to do something, or how did that all go down?
So I'll give you the full version here of this. So when I was still servicing pools, I started like my little website on the side. It was just rating like pool products stuff. It was called Pool Insider at the time. And so I just wanted to take like a cool photo. And that was when the GoPro first came out. So we were like messing around with the GoPro on. So how can we use this thing, and so we took a photo underwater in a suit at a client's house with the GoPro, but the quality was not very good, and there was specs, and so fast forward now, I don't know how many years it's been since then. That underwater are you talking about the one where I'm leaning up against the wall?
Yeah.
Right. So that was in Tarpon Isle in Palm Beach. It's the only private island in Palm Beach. The property actually sold recently for like $215 million. It's like 100 foot long night beds pool with a cold plunge and a hot spot. So, excuse me, we went out there to do, the videography and the photography, and that was not, we didn't really have that planned, but it was so hot. I don't know what month it was, but it was so hot, and you're out there all day. I mean, and it's not like, and nobody lives there. You don't have, you got to bring your own food and drink and everything. So just after we were all said and done, we were like, oh, we may as well jump in the pool. So we thought we'd make like a cool video or image of it. So we jumped in the pool, but we were not prepared for that. So Jimmy actually took that photo with my iPhone. Like he screenshotted it while I was underwater with the iPhone. So the quality of that photo is not that great, but we have another one that we did on a project in Siesta Key. It's also all tile that Jimmy brought his underwater housing,
Right.
which is basically like a big glass bowl that goes over the camera. And we took another one. I don't know. I don't think I've posted that or anything yet, but it's even cooler than the first one. So just kind of like, that's kind of how it started. And now I think when there's a cool opportunity to take a photo and, and try to do something cool every once in a while.
Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't had many copycats on that yet. So,
you know what? Yeah. I mean, here it's, look, we enjoy what we do, and I've just been doing this for so long. Figure what the hell.
Oh yeah. I just wouldn't look good underwater.
Not many people do. It's a true skill.
I don't know if it's slimming. I don't know if underwater makes it slimming or makes it worse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I know you work out quite a bit to stay in shape. So
I try.
One segment we do on this podcast is called Pool True Crime, and it's pretty much where we ask you if you've seen anything in the industry that's happened to. I mean, you've been in the industry for such a long time, so I'm sure you have a lot of examples, but it's pretty much to show what not to do. And so homeowners can be aware of it and hopefully be educated and, avoid these issues. But does anything come to mind?
The first one that comes to mind, and probably only because it's something that was close to me. So my mechanic, well, I say my mechanic, but my parents' pool company, obviously they have multiple trucks to run the pool service house. So they have a mechanic that we have a good relationship with. And he was resurfacing his swimming pool, and we made some recommendations. He ended up hiring somebody. They had drained the whole pool. They didn't pull the.
Oh no.
Yeah, you know where this is going.
Yeah.
But and this, by the way, this happened a couple years ago now. I've been in the industry my entire life. It's the only one that I knew would actually. You always hear this happening,
Right.
but I was like, oh man, it actually happened. And I was like, man, and it's so preventable that it's disgusting how preventable it is. They drained the pool to do some work on the pool, and guess what? Maybe a couple days later, when the weekend came around, there was a tropical storm. And down here, they do tropical storm warnings. Everybody gets an alert on the phone, and you watch it today, and everyone knows tropical storm coming. They left it. They didn't do any weep holes, and they didn't pull the plug, the hydrostatic valve.
Right.
So not long after that, I get a text from my mechanic. He's showing me photos of the pool popped up out of the ground, cracked in half. And he was asking me, it's almost, it's not funny, but it's almost funny. He was asking me, he's like, what do we do? He's like, can they fix it? And I was like, I'll tell you, yeah, just put a Band-Aid on it. No, but so they had to rip it out. He got a new pool and insurance paid for it. And I provided like an expert witness letter just saying how that was negligent. But that was one that was like, oh my God. That just completely shouldn't have happened ever. There was another one where I was servicing a pool. They just built a new infinity edge pool and it was radius, and it was so unlevel at the in the middle of it that it spilled over everywhere except for like the middle. So that was just like not a good one either. And it was bad. There was like 3 feet of the vanishing edge wall that was exposed. That's how unlevel the edge was.
What kind of material was it? Was it glass?
Oh, it was glass tile. Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was glass tile. It was a larger glass. It might have been like a 1.5 by 1.5. Maybe it wasn't 2 by 2, but it was bigger than 1 by 1. Here's another one we did in Miami Beach, and this was one of the first designs that I did at Smart Aquatics when I left my previous company. And it turned out I had serviced the pool before. And they're still clients of my parents' company, but they wanted to redo their whole backyard. So I think they maybe, I don't know how they heard that I was doing that or something. But anyways, they got a hold of me. I ended up doing the whole outdoor living space, basketball court. It was one of my first designs that I had done. That was like before COVID. Okay. That was like a year before COVID. It's not done yet. So,
oh wow,
I don't know how long it's been, but it's not done yet. It's almost done, but they don't have like CO yet or anything. So, and they had hired an architect or somebody who they knew previously that had helped them in the past with an addition to their house. Older fellow and just not from here. I think he's from Europe or something. And for what it took him literally like 3 years to get a permit. And when I found out, like after we had done the design, we did the construction drawings for it, the engineering, we gave it to her. I got a call from her like 2 years after, it was like asking questions. And she was telling me she was almost in tears. She don't know what's taking so long. I couldn't believe it. And I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, but I told her, I was like, it's at this point, like we're past that point. And this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I said, we built 1,000 pools in Miami Beach since, I'm exaggerating obviously, but since you guys have submitted for permit, we've gotten 1,000 permits. It takes 3 months, but still, they're not 3 years. They're just now finishing up. I couldn't believe it. So, I mean, there's countless stories, but I think it all goes back to, like, if you're the homeowner, even if you have a relationship with like an architect or somebody, it's like, man, they're just architects. If architects could do our job, and if landscape architects or designers or whatever, then we wouldn't exist, right? So there's a reason that we exist, whether it's builder, whether it's the engineer, whatever. And I hate to see that kind of stuff happen, because it happens every day. And people have good intentions, I think, but I think you got to get somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
On some level. It's
a specialty, and
yeah,
you hire a specialist to do special work. And there's a reason that, home builders don't build swimming pools.
Right.
And there's a reason that architects don't design them. So anyway, it's just, there's a lot of nuances to the whole thing that if you understand them, then you can make the process great. And if you don't, then it'll be a disaster. So.
Yeah. And it's something we see every day. It's a very unfortunate, but some people have to learn the hard way, I think, unfortunately.
So were you born there in Miami, or you said you grew up with your parents' business, so it sounds like you've been there a long time.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Miami. I'm a Miami boy. My mother is from Mexico originally, and my father is from Kentucky. Okay. So they're fishing right now up in Kentucky. That's what they like to do.
Awesome. We just came from Tennessee, so
nice.
It's a beautiful country.
So we do a segment, and it's pretty much we do like rapid fire discussions, and I just give you like different features. You can talk about it, elaborate why this is really beneficial. Maybe if you like this a lot, or maybe if it's overrated. First thing I'd start with is like smart lighting systems. Lighting's, I think, a big deal. But what does lighting mean to you?
Oh, I think lighting right now is a hot item, for sure, and because it's we're in that transitional period of your standard lighting to now what is, strip lighting is really taking off. I know everybody's, we're kind of like 50-50. Some people love it, some people hate it, but that's just where the aesthetic is going, because architectural is pushing it that way. So it's not it's whether we like it or not, that is the aesthetic that at the forefront of that type of aesthetic for modern, contemporary stuff down here. But strip lighting is a big thing here, and so yeah, I would say that's definitely a hot item right now too.
Yeah, I'd imagine strip lighting is like very, very valid and popular in Miami, because it feels like that just fits the vibe.
Yeah.
Automatic pool covers.
But am I supposed to be like a yes or no? Is this a yes or no thing, or what? Am I just quick like when I think about it?
Yeah, it's what you think about it. If you don't like it, you can tell us thumbs
Auto
down.
pool covers, they're cool, but like, what do you need them for? I don't know. We've designed a handful of them. They're cool. I just don't think you need them.
Movable floors.
I love movable floors. We got a couple that we're looking to get closed hopefully here soon. But yeah, movable floors are awesome.
Baja shelves, sunken lounges.
Yeah, those are you gotta have those now. That's just where we're at. And
Like the spa. It just comes with the pool. Outdoor kitchen, fire features.
Yep. Must-haves. Essentials. You're listing all the essentials.
I know. I got a list: glass tile, pools. That's a given. You got any interesting?
So the one you don't you asked before was the swim up bar. What do you think about those?
I think they're impractical. I like the idea of swim up bars, but I mean, how many times have you guys gone on there? I mean, are you sitting at the bar eating a burger? Like, no. Are you sitting at the bar drinking a drink? No. I mean, to me, in my experience, I think it's one of those things that's like, it's an inviting element to have, and it makes the pool look a certain way, and it gives it a certain aesthetic. But I just think they're they're impractical. I don't like them.
Wow. So the challenge in there is, how do you drain them? You have to use a sump pump, right?
Well, what do you mean?
How do you get the water out of the swim up bar? It's lower than the pool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the same way we do like recessed. Sorry, I didn't mean. We drain those the same way we do like recessed fire pits and everything. We can do them a couple different ways, but I just think, like from a design and practicality perspective, I just think like, I mean, who's really using that?
It's kind of like a resort item, I think. When you think of a resort with the pool, and also you bring it up, but I'm thinking, because I've used them a couple times lately in the last year. It depending on who's around you and eating at those, because you're talking about eating a burger and stuff like that. There's a lot of sloppy eaters out there, and you having all that just like swimming around in the water. It's kind of nasty in a way. So, well,
your hands, you don't want your hands wet. It just seems impractical from a useful perspective. But you know what? I do think, to that point, I think that's one of the things that you could say needs an overhaul, because swim up bars have been the same since I can remember, right? We're even doing a modern version one now in Fort Lauderdale. We're doing it's an acrylic top, and the water still spills over. It's just an effect, really. I don't think it's anything that somebody uses. But I still think that somebody needs to come up with a different way to do it, because it's been the same forever. So I wouldn't put one on my pool.
You just mentioned one thing also, was the sunken fire pit. So that's been popular here recently. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I like the sunken fire pits, and there's a number of different ways you can do them. And the reason I say that is because some elements that people like, it's like there's only one way to do it, like a sun shelf. It's like not much you can do with that. But the recessed fire pit I like, and you can do them a bunch of different ways. I like the fire pits.
That was the end of my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been predominantly a design firm, but you are now a design build firm. If you were to give one piece of advice to a homeowner, what would that piece of advice be?
Do your homework. Do your due diligence. I'll tell you what I tell some clients, as a matter of fact, from a price perspective. You certainly don't want to pay the cheapest price on a functioning vessel because you don't want to get the bottom of the barrel. But aside from that, go with somebody that you're comfortable with, that you like, because ultimately, depending on the size of the project, I mean, you get into a relationship with this person who's going to be in your house every day. And some of these projects go on for a couple of years. So I think you want to make sure that you're getting the most value, but also that you're in it together with somebody that you feel is going to take care of you. Because, something comes up, and at first it's like construction, this at first, it's like, house shopping for a new house. It's exciting at first, and after 6 months when you can't find it, like, it gets frustrating. So, we've seen clients where they're nothing but excited at the start of it. And then by the end of it, they're just like, I can't wait for these guys just to get out of my hair, get out of my house. They want to be able to enjoy it finally. So I think, taking those type of things in consideration, just like when we hire slowly, there's no rush. Everybody seems to be in a rush, but I think that you're going to save yourself a lot of time, money, energy, frustration if you just, do your due diligence, and try to get the best value in somebody that you feel is right for you.
What's the weirdest client request you've ever had?
The weirdest client request. It's a good question. The weirdest request from a client.
Ray had a couple weird ones.
Like a design or like what? But like
it doesn't. I don't know. I was just picking your brain for a little bit, but I remember, didn't Ray have like one where he had like made a mural out of the homeowner's wife's a naked
I think I
portrait?
heard that story.
Yeah. That was pretty wild. I don't know.
Anything weird or unusual off the top of my head. What's been unusual?
Maybe if it's weird doesn't pop into your head, was there like a really big design risk that you took, but it paid off? Maybe early in your career?
No, look, we're not allowed to really, like, we do risk management essentially, because our designs, we have to engineer and ultimately it has to be built, and we're responsible on some level throughout the entire process.
Of course.
So our job is really like risk management, like on these acrylic pools and stuff. We have to decide, okay, if we want to take on this project, how much of how much of a liability could it be, right? Do we have a network that we're comfortable? Because if it's something that's never been done before, that we've never done before, we have to assess them. Okay, first of all, do we have the confidence that we can do this, that we can pull this thing off? And by the way, and meet the client's deadline, because it's not like we have all the time in the world to do these things either. So I think we have to assess all that kind of stuff, and it's a lot of liability and risk. I mean, the biggest risk I've taken was quitting my job. I mean, that was and betting on me. And like you said, I went broke, literally. So that was my biggest risk, I'd say.
Okay.
Looks like it's paying off.
It is paying off. Yeah. It looks like it is. You said in the early process, you were dealing with a lot of pools that you were taking over because someone screwed them up along the lines. You want to talk about any of those jobs at all? Because those are great examples of what not to do, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, and it happens all the time. Not a lot of this stuff is like, how do we get people to see our value up front, right? And Mike, I'm sure you guys have been building pools and designing pools for a lot longer than I have, so you know this more than I do. We're in industry. It's interesting, right? When you see a Ferrari, and if you walk into a dealership and there's a Ferrari there, and and there's a price tag on it of, $250,000. People don't bat an eye at that, even if they can't afford it, right? They know they know it's worth that, right? They're not saying, "Oh, I can't believe it's 200 grand," or whatever the price tag is, because the value of that vehicle is immediately apparent, right? Plus, they probably know the name and the brand, right?
Right.
So, but with what we're doing, and this goes to like homeowners too, it's like, how do you get them to recognize your value up front, and then justify paying, maybe you're more expensive, right, than the next guy, right? Because to them, if they're just comparing the price of you and the next guy and the next end, most people are just going to go with the cheaper option. They don't want to spend the money. So I think that's really the biggest thing, is we're in an industry where our value is not immediately apparent. And so how do we create that value up front? So by the time someone comes to us, they know and they're okay with us being more expensive, or they understand why we're more expensive, or whatever the case may be. So that's a very interesting thing to me, because if a client comes to us and their first priority is price, and just, I already know they're not a client. I brought that up was because I feel like that's part of the reason why that happens, where a client, look, whether it's not hiring Ray for his tile because he was 50 grand more, right? Or whatever, not hiring us because we're a little bit more expensive, because they couldn't. And typically, it's not about one of my favorite quotes is, price is only an issue in the absence of value. And so it's not that they don't have the money to spend, it's that they don't believe that for that price that you can achieve what they want, or that, like, why would I pay extra when the next guy can do the same thing? Because they don't understand that we're not doing the same thing. So they'll pay a little bit less, try to save, $50K or whatever the hell it is. And then when something goes wrong and they have to call you to come and fix it, and you explain to them what happened, and they're like, "Oh, well," and because most of that stuff with what we're doing is technical. It's not, how do they know that the reason that this guy's price is less was because he was buying material from Home Depot that's not rated for underwater application, and not because he was trying to cut corners, just because he's not a specialist. He didn't know any better, right? And he does tile for interiors, whatever. So what's to a homeowner, it's not even their fault. I think it's just it's ignorance. They don't know any better. And so we spend a lot of time educating our clients, and the ones who see value in that pay more, because they want to do it right the first time. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question either.
No, it does. It does. I think, I mean, how many times have you had a homeowner call you that went a different direction but stayed with your design, and then like they screwed up the design completely, or there was, mistakes throughout the process of construction? It's just, it sucks hearing that story.
Yeah, but it exists, and sometimes those people then become your biggest fans.
Yeah.
Because they can understand the value of what you're providing, and their testimony of, "Don't F this process up, go with Jonny because he knows what he's talking about," can become very valuable to you later on in your career. So people, I mean, everybody tries to get a deal sometimes. And what I tell people is, when was the last time you're telling a story about the deal you got 15 years ago? That's because the other times that you tried to get a deal the last 15 years, it didn't work out for you. Okay. So, my dad's comment was years ago was, "Well, if you saved $10,000, you better put the 10 grand in the bank, because you're probably going to need it for the remodel."
Actually, I like that. I haven't heard that before. That's smart. And that's true, by the way.
No, it's probably not enough money, for what you save. And the challenge also is, he said, yeah, you might save some money, but what's your, headache and, pain and suffering worth as you go through it as well. And so those are I've always worked with companies that were the top top dollar. But there's a lot of people that realize that, and they see the value and they pay that, and the company does the work and does it right the first time and then stands behind it if there is a mistake. So that's again, people learn over time, but sometimes lessons are expensive.
Oh, and also it's not just like the top dollar. It's a lot of the money that they're not spending is under the ground, which he was talking about risk assessment. And there's a lot of companies out there that will give you the same design, but structurally it's not the same at all.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if because of a lot of this stuff is outside of the realm of clients' understanding, meaning it's technical, right? They don't know number 4 steel, number 3 steel, and 3,000 psi, 5,000 psi, or whatever it is. They don't understand the implications of that difference, right? They're only seeing the ticket price, and it's curious to me if if I got 3 proposals as a homeowner and I saw, the price difference of these 3, I almost would like take one to that or take 3 of them, whatever you want to do to the contractor that was less and say, and have them like explain how are you achieving this design at this much less than the next guy, or and even the next. And I'd be curious to I feel like if I'd be curious as to what the explanation would look like. Like, would you guys think that that would reveal, like,
Well, what everybody always says is, well, I'm a leaner machine, so my overhead's lower, and so I can do it cheaper than some XYZ. And in all honesty, what they're usually doing is cutting corners in the construction process.
right?
But they're never going to admit that. They're not going to tell you, well, we're using 90s instead of sweeps. We're, going to come in and, we use a gunite company that shovels rebound in the floor of the pool, because then we use less yards, and so we don't have to pay as much yardage for the whole project. There's all kinds of things that we can do that can make the product cheaper, that as I look at it and the initial results, they'll look exactly the same. The challenge is 10 years later, do they look exactly the same? And, because things that aren't built well don't age well. There's all kinds of lawsuits going on right now because of all the stuff that was built during COVID, because of contractors that didn't know what they were doing, subcontractors that didn't know what they were doing, but there was such a high demand that people would just pay for whatever, and that's coming back to bite a lot of people at this point in time.
Well, it's interesting to me. One of the realizations that I had, or I don't know what you want to call it, but when we started getting involved in some of these larger projects, that 7 figures and stuff, like easily the 7 figure, multiple 7 figures, I just assumed that those projects were run differently, and they were, finally, we can get out of the the turmoil and the mess of stuff that's people cutting corners and everything. And I just assumed, because I was ignorant and young and stupid, right, that these projects have to be done a certain way because there's more liability, there's more money, and then everyone wants to do it the right way. And then I slowly realized it's the same shit. There was a vessel that was easily $1.5 million, elevated perimeter overflow, maybe, I don't know, 100 foot long, maybe not that long, but and we specified 5,000 psi concrete because we're in Miami Beach, and per the code, I believe it's like a C4 or W2 code that classifies, like, if you have brackish water, any concrete that's exposed to salt air, it has to be 5,000. And I think at the very minimum, you could make an argument for 4,000, but that classification is 5,000 psi, and it's literally on the water, and the groundwater is not. It's at the very least it's brackish because it's you're 10 feet from
the ocean,
and you're exposed to salt air, obviously. And so we thankfully, there was enough people involved on this project, architects and everything, but the architect has sent us an RFI to approve the concrete specifications that the contractor had provided. And as a matter of fact, the contractor provided the subcontractors, the concrete companies, concrete
Right.
specifications, because everything here is basically subbed out,
Right.
and it said 3,000. They were going to shoot 3,000 psi, and had somebody not sent that to us, and again, the architect was just like, they didn't know any better. It's like, oh, they submitted here, you send it to us because it was pool related. And I looked at it and said 3,000 psi. And it's like they don't even look at the plans that we're specifying. They don't know themselves that, hey, where this pool is located, obviously 3,000 psi doesn't meet the code requirement. And it's just, for the life of me, I couldn't believe that was what was going on. But to your point, Mike, it's exactly what was happening. So they don't, they're just turning them out. Even these big ones, they want to get in, shoot concrete, and get to the next one. And that's right. Like, how long would that pool have lasted versus if you had the correct concrete in there? Even from a PSI to a concrete thicknesses, the rebar and everything. I'm sure it happens across the board. It's very unfortunate, but it's a reality sometimes you got to deal with.
And that's what you said in the beginning. You're as good as the people you work with.
Right.
So if you have top-notch people that you're working with, and they're part of your organization, then you're going to be able to provide top-notch stuff, and you don't have to be as concerned about those type of things. But a homeowner that's wanting to try to get 3 bids on everything, that can be difficult sometimes.
In my head,
Yeah.
I want to compare it to almost like a car. Like, you buy a Hellcat V8, it's going to be a lot more expensive than a V6 or like a Ferrari or whatever it might be. But it's not even just that, because it's a hand created. A lot of it's obviously like troweling, and there's a lot of detail that's going into it with the labor creating a pool. But it's not just like the engine with the piping and stuff like that. It's the infrastructure, the foundation, the shell. It's a lot more than just the engine.
Well, you know what it feels like? It's a good analogy. It's almost like if you got 3 proposals from 3 contractors and the pricing was in line with like a base model, your sport model, and then like your super premium model, whatever. The problem is they're all telling you it's a premium model.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we just know that, hey, this is the base, this is the standard, this is the whatever, I'd be happy to make the decision for what I want. But the problem is everybody's presenting, here's the premium model, but the reality is some people are building the base model, so on the, to your point, like, on the exterior, it may look the same. And even some people who just don't have an eye for that, because I noticed immediately, like there's things like that you can't put a price on, like craftsmanship. That's like I almost want to say it's like it's not intangible, obviously, because somebody has to physically do that, but it's almost like an intangible thing that some people don't notice. You could build $1 million swimming pool and it'll look like a $225,000 pool because the craftsmanship is not there. It wasn't waterproof. You got calcification coming through. The edges are just, like let's say if it's a radius and the edges, you can see the straight cuts. It's just, so I think that that's a very interesting kind of analogy, because it's almost like people are not aware, because these things are under the hood. They're seeing the premium model on the exterior, not understanding that the engine is a 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. With cars, they're advertised by the actual specs, V8, V6.
Right.
The pool isn't. It's just the design. Right. So yeah, that's actually the perfect. Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So you do a lot of site work where you go out and inspect the stuff that you've designed, and for those type of situations?
Yes, correct. And that's really how we kind of got into the construction admin and construction side of things is, so from the design to the engineering, people wanted to make sure that, okay, it was actually getting built the way that because some people have, are privy to the fact that, hey, even if it's not intentional, mistakes happen, right? And sometimes there's a disconnect between what's on the plans, or maybe something's not available, and they got to keep the project moving, so they make their own decisions. So we go out and inspect, steel, concrete, whatever it is, plumbing, a lot of times, and you'd be surprised what we sometimes come across. And again, some of it's I don't think everything's intentional, right? One of my other favorite quotes is like, don't attribute how does it go? It's like, don't attribute malice for what when stupidity will suffice, or something like that. Like, so it's not necessarily that people have bad intentions and they're doing these things to cut corners. Like, well, maybe they don't know. But either way, unacceptable.
If I'm going to build in Miami, what's something that I have to do in Miami that I don't typically have to do in other parts of the country that a homeowner should be aware of?
Ooh, good question.
I mean, you just have to have a license like anybody else. But I mean, I would say one thing we do down here is we have foundation systems. I guess most of the country doesn't have foundation systems. So I would study up on some of that. I don't, other than getting the license, I'm not sure.
No, I'm just saying, like, I know that you have to deal with, salt water to a very heavy degree. You've got a high water table that you have to deal with as well. So you have a lot of dewatering.
You're saying, okay, from a construction perspective, yeah. I mean, well, yeah, dewatering is definitely one of them. But I mean, other than dewatering, high water table, foundation systems. I'm not even sure what else. I mean, we just have terrible soils here, pretty much.
Okay.
So,
and hurricanes.
yeah. But we have some of the probably most stringent standards. But that really, you'd have to, when you get your license, that's all you'd be kind of brought up to speed for the building code.
Gotcha.
Had all that information.
So some of the questions I usually ask the guests at the end are just to get to know the person a little bit better. So I'm wondering what your favorite meal is, your favorite movie, and since you hate reading books but you're doing it every single month, what your favorite book is so far.
Oh man, my favorite meal. That's tough, man. I'm Hispanic, so I like a good Mexican dish. I mean, tacos, you can't go wrong. Taco Tuesday for sure. Second favorite movie?
Yeah, favorite movie.
I'm a movie guy too, man. That's difficult. I'll tell you one. I'll give you two of the most recent ones that are the movie Air and the movie Ford vs Ferrari are two of my favorites for sure. I don't know if favorite of all time. I'm not sure. There's so many good ones.
Was Air the Air Jordan movie?
Yeah, Air Jordan. Yeah,
that was really good. Those both are really good movies, actually.
Yeah, Ford vs Ferrari. No man, just really good movies. There's so many good ones.
Oh yeah.
I probably would say the movie that I watched the most over the course of my life was probably Italian Job. Okay. The most. I used to watch that a lot. Yeah, it's a good one.
That's a good movie.
Favorite book.
Favorite book. Man, you know what? I only read now for business. So all the books I've read up to this point are business related. The first book I read was The E-Myth. I think the two other ones that stuck the most were Dave Ramsey's first book, Entre Leaders. Is it called Entre Leadership? I think talks a little bit about business and leadership, which had some really insightful stuff there. And then the other one was what was the other one? The Robert Kiyosaki. Everyone's heard that. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff it's simple, but man, it's good. When you read it from that perspective, it does give you some good insight. So
awesome.
So where is your favorite place to travel?
My favorite place to travel, man. I went to Croatia. That was pretty cool. I'll say this. So the two places I like going the most right now. So I like going snowboarding in Colorado. That's probably my favorite thing to do, so I can get out on the boat down here. But I fell in love with Colorado and snowboarding. I want to get a place there. I love it so much.
Where at?
I was spoiled the first time we went to Aspen because a buddy of mine had a house there.
That's nice place to start.
Yeah. So, but Snowmass Mountain is just incredible for snowboarding and skiing. Other than that, get up to Kentucky, visit my parents up there. So I like getting away from everything, you know, for a little bit.
That's real peaceful up there. So
Yeah.
anyway.
If you're traveling for inspiration, is that the same or is it maybe a different place?
I'm traveling for inspiration. Well, you know what? It's interesting. That's a great question, but I just think I'm the type, and I don't know if it's different for everybody, but like, I get poor inspiration. It's like always looking for inspiration everywhere I go. But I will say that, you know, when I went to Europe, Croatia was probably one of the most unique places that I've been. And we went there because, you know, when the whole Game of Thrones things was a big deal. So we went to a lot of those spots, but it was beautiful, and plus the history is pretty cool too. We went to a couple different places. We went to Austria as well. But learning about the history and traveling to some of these places was pretty cool.
I really like when you are just kind of like walk up on some water feature and explain all the different hydraulics of it and how things work and stuff like that. So
well, I know you know about that kind of stuff, man. I think it's very unique to see some of this stuff that they're doing now and then what they did back then.
oh yeah. So anyway, fun. Have you ever had a chance to go to Italy yet?
I have not been to Italy yet. No.
So if you go to Italy, from a pool guy standpoint, you got to check out Villa d'Este's. It was an emperor's personal home, and it had more fountains on it than just about, I mean, any place you can ever see. And the cool thing is when they built it, there were no pumps. It was all done by literally gravity flow.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
But it's an amazing place, and I'm amazed on how many people that are in the pool industry that go to Italy and they've never even heard of it. And so I studied it in landscape architecture and fell asleep in the class, you know, but then to go to see it in actual, I mean, we spent a whole day there.
Oh, that's on Lake Como. It says here, no?
No,
Right? No? Villa d'Este, Lake Como, or maybe there's a different one. Oh, there's a different one. Okay, sorry. I guess there's more than one.
maybe so.
Well, I see one here with like three big. It's like a fountains. Okay, that's got to be it.
Yeah,
and it looks old too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old place. So
Anyway.
anyway,
I see. Oh, that is cool. Yeah, I love stuff like that, man. It's really cool.
Anyway, but well, I really appreciate you being on with us, Jonny, and I appreciate, you know, all that you've done for the industry as well. You helped us out with the $1 Million Pool Challenge a couple of years ago.
I forgot about that.
One of your projects. So anyway, but we look forward to talking to you in the future. So
yeah, man, same here. Thank you guys very much, Mike. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and thanks for having me. It's been great.
okay, well, you take care.